I got a couple of calls and messages in the last few days. People close to the administration or feds, high up in media, basically saying I shouldn't speak about what I don't know, warning me not to go down the path of hate, that I should remain silent. And I was going to stream today. But the more I think about it, I just wanted to organize my thoughts before I address this. I mean, they know what I do. I ask questions. And maybe they're not the popular ones, but I try to see an issue from various angles, perspectives, and give my own logical thoughts and conclusions, my own take on things. And we're not a big channel. It's just me and you guys. We're just this tiny corner of the internet world, trying to think for ourselves rather than just comply, to ask questions, to look past narrative, come up with our own decisions and conclusions. I don't have any donors or sponsors or reps or agents. In fact, I know a ton of these types of people. None of them want to support me because, controversy. Which is crazy because what is controversial about thinking for yourself, free thinking? The donor class wants to support those that stay in line, are amenable in their messaging. They want useful idiots. And I don't know how long we can continue. At times it feels futile. It's like the epitome of black pill. The ending to 1984. You know it's coming, but you can't do anything about it. But here we are, still fighting. Not for a side, but for humanity. Because if we stop thinking for ourselves, we lose. I've been thinking a lot about the murder of Charlie Kirk. The shooting is surrounded by inconsistencies, propaganda, shifting narratives, evidence that seems manufactured, and media figures pushing pre-packaged ideas, stories. Instead of unity, the aftermath has fueled surveillance, censorship, new laws benefiting Israel and its donors while deepening division amongst the entire population. At the end, the real question is, cui bono? Who gains the most from this chaos? There's a lot of theories out there on this shooting. Lots of inconsistencies regarding the shooting, lots of mistakes. There's constantly new info coming out every single day, and it's hard to distinguish between reality and psyop. There's like a million questions, not a lot of answers. Answers change constantly, but there's plenty of people breaking it down from all the angles. Info changes every 12 hours, so even by the time I publish this, probably the information you have will be different. Maybe even the narrative will have shifted again, because it shifts again and again and again and again. Lone shooter, guys. Oh, no, just kidding. There's a group of 20 of them. Really? Isn't that interesting? Every 12 hours, the story is different. Cash says there was a note left behind by the shooter. We haven't seen it, but somehow we know exactly what it says. And we swear we can for sure know that it existed. And we also don't know what it says, but we know for sure what it said. Are we redefining the definition of evidence? Or is tampering with a jury or a potential jury not a thing anymore? I don't even see. I'm not rooting for this guy, but I don't see how this guy gets a fair trial. Literally, the director of the FBI said, we got him, we don't have him. No, we got him, we got him. He's by himself. No, it's with a bunch of other people. We got it from Discord. No, that's not the Discord. They are altering the minds of the public. And maybe, just maybe, the official FBI narrative is correct. Let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. Just for 1 second. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Before any evidence was presented, Trump blamed the radical left. The trans. There was no evidence. But they knew for sure on what caused it, which is weird because how do you know what caused it when you don't know who did it and why? But they were for sure. The establishment propagandists started running with this. It's a trans community. It's a trans community. I'm the last guy to protect the trans people. I'm not a fan, obviously. But, like, truth is truth. Then we find out that the roommate who was trying to be trans was actually cooperating with the FBI in an odd way. Doesn't that mean that the trans person actually helped? And have you noticed how fast the talking points appeared across the government, mainstream media, independent, we are the media, conservative media outlets? That synchronization itself, isn't that suspicious? Propaganda doesn't spread that fast unless it's coordinated. So who benefits? Cui bono. The whole idea of cui bono comes from Cicero. And it means who gains from the crime. It's an ancient courtroom tactic that's still relevant today. They use it in law and politics and media, business. It helps cut through the noise and the staged narratives to figure out who the possible beneficiaries are. And everyone watching, they'll go, it's Israel. It's not a bad choice. It's probably the most obvious after the official narrative. It's being dissected to death. And I get it. I get why everyone thinks it would be them. I think it's too obvious, but maybe it's so obvious that it is true because the most Occam's razor, the most likely situation is the actual situation. Maybe. I think there's other people that are benefit from this also, though, not just them. And I don't know if they ordered it, if they directed it, if they are just adjacent to it. I think this is all stuff to figure out. What we do know is there's no actual hard evidence. And I really think that if it was them, I don't think they needed to do it publicly. It could have been a quieter thing if they were just trying to remove somebody. They didn't need an excuse to make it so public, but we'll get back to that later. Who else benefits? Who else benefits is the donor class, the Zionist donor class, the ones that fund Turning Point, also fund Daily Wire, also fund PragerU, also fund Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens. Fund a lot of the Voices, Blaze, fund a lot of the media organizations out there that are pushing out this messaging. Don't they benefit? They benefit because as an aftermath of the shooting, there's something like a request of 3,000 new chapters that want to start up in every college town, every small city in the country. They will now be able to put their indoctrination chapters of this overtly pro-Israel messaging in every single one of these areas. Not saying it was them, but they do benefit. They benefit. You know, I was watching J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, host the Charlie Kirk show today. I didn't like it. It seemed this merge, this convergence of government and media, and I get it. They were friends. They knew each other. Fine. But you're the Vice President of the United States. You're supposed to, you know how controversial it's becoming. You know how upset some people have become and how divisive this murder, death, assassination was. You could have made a statement, but to host a talk show that's filled with propaganda, it felt wrong. It didn't feel like the right thing to do. It's like, oh, we got to make sure. I get that. But there are other ways to do it. Not host a show. You're the Vice President of the United States. And are we paying you for your time to host a talk show to talk about something political, by the way? That's like partisan political. Like, I get it. That's what you do. I didn't like it. And he had several guests on. And the overall message of everyone there, they wanted to be clear. They wanted to make sure that you knew, just in case anyone ever questioned it, just in case any other clips came out, just in case any other narrative came out, they wanted you to know unequivocally that Charlie loved Israel. They really went out of their way to do that. And that got me thinking about Trump's like first memorial post that he put up, and it was an AI generated image of Trump and Charlie in front of a US and Israeli flag. Like, that's okay. Of everything that you want, the President of the United States, you want to say to the world, the message you wanted to make sure you put out there was, look at me and Charlie in front of these flags, both of them. Can you imagine what that AI prompt was in order to generate that picture? It doesn't make... It was odd. It kind of made me feel, I think a lot of you guys too, it didn't feel right. And you can understand, like, how can they not understand, or they do know, how could they not understand why people are questioning and be adamant about the noticing? When they are so blatantly propagandizing and messaging in your face, and like, oh no, you're a bad guy for thinking this. Wait, why? You're being so blatantly obvious about your signaling to the population, and then we're the bad guys for noticing it? The shooter ended up being a white kid from a conservative MAGA family. Isn't it interesting that when it's an Arab shooter, they're like, oh, it's a terrorist, ban all the Muslims, don't let them in the country. If it's a black shooter, oh, it's BLM, they're targeting whites, they hate white people. If it's a Hispanic shooter, like, oh, they're rapists and drug dealers, build the wall. It's a white shooter, oh, it's indoctrination by the professor in his college. Really? The aftermath and the fallout. New bills are being introduced. They're introducing bills to revoke passports of citizens criticizing Israel. They're creating bills to fund more private protection for Congress. Another weapons aid package for Israel. Surveillance tracking, this online database of 60,000 Americans who celebrated the murder or spoke favorably of the murder. They are collecting people's information for what you said online. It's literally the foundation for a social credit score system. And do you know what, guys? How easy and willing both sides are willing to keep, list, cancel, fire people that disagree with their own views. How willingly people are doing it. Man, when they roll out this social credit score system, they're not even going to have to force it on the population because people do it willingly anyway. Social credit score system. Oh, we're so, like, dude, people do it anyway. We are so conditioned to do it without even being told to do it. And like, oh, we're going to fight back. We're not going to, no. Obviously, we are so easy to convince to comply. More censorship, more division, more turning on your neighbor, turning in your family. That one was weird, man. Father turns into son. Dude. on top of all of the noise of last week within the shooting, you have all these global dynamics that are in play that if it was any other week would have been headlines and that's all we would have talked about. Actually, we would have probably dedicated shows specifically to this. UN passes a declaration to establish a Palestinian state. Pretty big deal. Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Turkey, they're reassessing their relationship with the United States, especially after the Doha attack. They don't want to be mixed up in this shit. Trump is threatening sanctions on anyone that sides with Russia. You have this domestic consolidation of all these media companies that used to seem like they're all separate. Now they're kind of working all in tandem together in order to get out the same exact messaging, infiltrating all parts of the country. And quietly, without much fanfare, without much pushback, without having to deal with the repercussions, the Epstein files were blocked from release again. Notice the pattern? Every single one of these crises, it leads to the same outcome. More money for Israel, more power for the donor class, more surveillance for Americans. History has shown this before. Patriot Act after 9/11. Tragedy is the fastest path to control. I mean, if you really take a step back, the country is tearing apart. There's a huge faction of the country that believes Israel is involved, directly or indirectly. We've talked about this. And did you know that Charlie Kirk and George Floyd, they have the same birth date, October 14th? Isn't that interesting? Can you imagine what next month, October 14th, 2025 is going to be like? The division, the fighting, the chaos, the blaming, the political pandering, the moral high horsing. Oh, October 14th. Can you imagine what that's going to be like? Stay inside. Maybe stay away from people that day. Maybe turn off the internet that day. It's probably going to be sick. A national tragedy, what it actually should do is it's supposed to bring unity. It's supposed to bring the country together. The leadership, especially Trump, he could have used this moment to heal instead of immediately blaming one side. Radical left. Dude, I am not a liberal at all. But I don't like this pointing fingers and blaming, especially in things I get it. I joke around. I make jokes about, hey, Sar and pooflingers. I do that shit. But I'm not a hateful person. I don't hate anybody. The narrative can easily have been a father gets shot in cold blood in front of his two kids. And the whole country could have related to that. That's horrible. That could have hit home with every single American, most. But instead, it went instantly to the blame game, to hate, to radicalization. What's the result of Charlie Kirk's murder? More chaos, division, surveillance, censorship, indoctrination. More power for those deciding what people think, feel, say, do. What do I think? The world's a show. There is a likelihood, high, small, medium. There's a legit likelihood that the shooter was simply the shooter. Despite all the oddities, theories, etc., etc., it's possible. But the rest of them, Israel, Zionist billionaires, politicians, online personalities trading off his name, organizations raising money, etc., they're all just opportunists. not wanting to lose an opportunity for attention. Cui bono? Who benefits the most is often the culprit. Who benefits? They all do. Quick edit after the video. I just saw the picture of the 250 US legislators, 5 from each state, in Israel doing their Israel tour and the propaganda tour over there. And I'm thinking like, dude, what are they doing there? It's, I get a lot of, sometimes people give me a little shit for like being protective of Korea. And I get that. I can see why you would think that. But it's not the same. It's just not the same. Like when I talk about Korea, like Korea's not trying to infiltrate here. They're not getting involved in the politics, not flying over congressmen, trying to indoctrinate people, not to try to convince anyone to fight in a war, support some sort of genocide of people, kill women and children, not trying to change the way you live your lives, actually. But politicians being there, like, especially with everything going on right now, it's pretty wild. Like, they couldn't cancel it. And then you hear this alleged rumor, allegedly, about Netanyahu offering Charlie Kirk $150 million to be harder pro-Israel because they were worried about losing the youth. And now he's gone. And now they probably have full control of the organization. It's pretty wild. I'm trying not to be like overly conspiratory because like it's pretty sad what happened to Charlie, It really is. And there's so much anger and division and fighting going on in this country. And I don't want to live in that. You know what I mean? I don't want my children to live in that. But that's wild, man. They offered him a ton of money, unalived. And 250 members of U.S. government are hanging out over there. I don't understand how people don't see what's going on. Something's not right.